I'd like to shift gears a bit and learn more about your latest role, which is very different yet quite similar to your previous work. I understand that you're now working as a certified deaf interpreter or a CDI. Share with me how you ventured into this new profession as a CDI.
Well, through my many years working at Sesame Street, I've also been involved with a theater company called Deaf West Theater Company. My husband, Ed Waterstreet, and I decided to move to Los Angeles as a new adventure. My work was still in New York City, but I looked at this as an opportunity for a new life. We discovered there were no deaf theater productions on the West Coast. In fact, none even west of the Mississippi. So we decided to start our own, and I became a founding member. So during my hiatus from Sesame Street, I worked with Deaf West as an ASL master, which meant helping hearing and deaf cast members to take an English-based script and transform it into performance-level ASL. In this way, the material was authentic to the deaf audience, and nothing was lost in translation. It became a transition for me. In time, I left Sesame Street to devote my time to my work as an ASL master with Deaf West. Finally, I realized I'd been doing this for 20 years. Now that I was no longer with Sesame Street, what would my next career be? So I began considering work as a CDI. I had seen several CDIs working in court, and it made sense to me. I could take my skills gained over the years, acting, affecting change through teaching, making English accessible to an ASL audience, and apply these to my work as a CDI. It was a very natural segue and a culmination of my skills and experience.
Oh, yeah, right. Right.
So I made the change. I found there was a huge amount of work to do, both in training and learning. I enjoyed the challenge. Just the personal learning experience was thrilling. And the skills I acquired over the years helped me in interpreting because I had learned to rely on my instincts. My experience in working with Sesame Street directors, trusting my instinct, now came into play in educating people on the value of a CDI, and educating the deaf client on ways to advocate for a CDI rather than settling for misunderstandings. Being that bridge between two communities, it was a challenge. As I said, I love challenges, so I became a CDI. I started interpreting in 1997, received my certification in 2002, and have been doing the work ever since.
So, what kind of preparation or training and testing does a person have to go through to become credentialed as a CDI?
That's an important question. Many deaf people have the idea that being a fluent ASL user means they can walk in off the street and immediately start working as a CDI. Oh, and no, that's not true at all. Regardless of the signing skill, the foundation is ethics, the code of professional conduct that guides how we approach situations. It's the same training hearing interpreters have had for years. When I decided to become a CDI, I knew that preparation was critical. In the same way that actors must prepare for a performance with study and research, as a CDI, I can't just show up for an assignment. I prepare by attending workshops and conferences, like the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf conferences, or local and regional offerings. I take advantage of as many workshops as I can, and I gravitate towards the legal trainings, since that's my specialty. I like the challenge. In my area, the courts have made it standard practice to use CDI hearing teams with cases that involve a deaf person, because that precedent has already been set. It was set before I started in the field. So that's what I did. But I even took interpreting 101 courses, learning just the basic interpreting skills. I felt that was necessary. So I took those classes at CSUN. Now, keep in mind that while I was doing this, I was already working in court settings. So it was crucial that I work with a mentor who could observe me and supplement my training with on-the-job insight and oversight. And then there was the test.
So, what was that like?
Well, there was a written portion of the test, and once you passed that, then you could move on to the performance portion of the test. Yeah, I was nervous about taking the test. But all my preparation paid off, and in 2002, I felt like I was ready for it. I took it, passed it, and was ready to hit the ground running. I was anxious, but once I passed, it felt good. I was ready for this work and felt very well prepared. With this national certification, I could work outside of the state pretty much anywhere. Being certified means I have been formally trained and credentialed. Now, some do work as a DI, which means they aren't currently certified, but they're working towards it. It's so important to become certified. The field is always changing, so being certified requires continuing education. It's important to stay current with standard practices and with research that teaches us new approaches to our work. That all contributes to our professional development. The growth in the field is ongoing, so my training is as well.
I can imagine your work as a CDI takes you into a wide variety of situations. Can you elaborate a bit on what a situation might look like? Illustrate what an interpreted session looks like with a CDI involved, especially for someone who's never seen it.
Oh, sure, yeah. A CDI works as a team with an ASL hearing interpreter. Often, an ASL interpreter will work alone. However, they'll encounter situations and deaf clients that require more than just a message conveyed in ASL. When there are additional barriers to communication access, a CDI is called in. Having a CDI as part of the team changes the interpreting process. It becomes consecutive rather than simultaneous. This allows the interpretation to be more accurate, more closely aligned with the speaker's actual statements. It also allows for more in-depth ethical analysis and decision-making during the event. Let me walk you through the process. The English speaker will convey their message to the ASL interpreter, who then signs it to the CDI. Even though the message is signed in ASL, the deaf client may not fully understand the import from what was just signed. Therefore, the CDI will interpret what was said, retaining the meaning while including the necessary cultural context to make the original message clear to the deaf party. The reverse is also true. The deaf person communicates a culturally rich ASL message, which the CDI unpacks and interprets into appropriate English order that the ASL interpreter can then say in spoken English. And through this consecutive process, all parties are able to communicate clearly with one another.
That makes it clear that ASL is truly a distinct language. So what I'm seeing you say is that this process allows for a more native rendition of the message because it's being processed through a deaf culture filter coming from you, the CDI, a deaf interpreter.
Yes, English is auditory and ASL is more visual. As a fellow ASL user, I bring an intuitive understanding of the deaf person's intention in their native language. I can identify nuances in the message that may otherwise be overlooked. That allows a complete and robust interpretation to be conveyed through the ASL interpreter into appropriate English. And it allows the deaf person to have freeness of speech and uninhibited self-expression.
That's beautiful. I love how you describe that and how you capture the nuances which can be so easily overlooked. It's important to effective communication, preserving the nuances and completing the message, right?
Yes, the message is complete. It represents what the deaf person wanted expressed, or it conveys the full intent of the English speaker. Think of the importance of that in a legal or mental health setting. The interpreted message becomes a part of the permanent record, and the damage that can be done by interpretation errors or omissions can be immeasurable to the deaf party, not to mention invalidating the accuracy of the legal record. Therefore, the consecutive interpreting process with the CDI is the best practice.